ABC News Live.
Blizzard warnings, tornadoes, sleet, snow, and a whole lot more.
Oh, lightning!
The hazardous weather conditions hitting millions of Americans coast to coast. Plus,
I think that everyone has a right to say how their taxes are being spent. I feel like taxes are for the greater good, and this is for the greater good.
the fight over a plan that could give relief to more than 40 million Americans. Student debt hits the Supreme Court, and
in all my characters, I try to find that. I don't think we're one thing. You know, I don't think we're one thing, just strong.
Angela Bassett on her superpowers as Queen Ramonda and her Academy Award nomination as we kick off our road to the Oscars. Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We're following those stories and much more, including what the Energy Department is now saying about where COVID-19 may have come from, the response tonight from lawmakers, the White House, and China. Plus, the influencer murdered in Hong Kong and the shocking new details about how police say she was killed. And renewed calls for inclusivity by Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade. We take a look at the debate over gender-affirming care nationwide. Our correspondents are fanned out around the world covering it all for us tonight. But we begin with a severe weather threat in at least 35 states tonight as two major winter storms are making their way across the country. The West is bracing for more rain and snow, and parts of the East Coast are expecting the first major snowfall of the season, with March and spring just around the corner. In Southern California, there is concern about mudslides. And the cleanup is on tonight after a confirmed tornado blew through Champaign, Illinois today. And the National Weather Service now says the twister that struck the neighborhood in Norman, Oklahoma was at least an EF2 with winds of at least 110 miles an hour. Our chief meteorologist Ginger Z is standing by with the track on these two storms. But first, Maria Villarreal leads us off from the tornado zone in Norman, Oklahoma.
Tonight, that coast-to-coast storm system spawning twisters in the Midwest. After rocking the southern plains with at least 10 reported tornadoes overnight, claiming at least one life. Tornado sirens sounding in Yukon, Oklahoma.
This is a serious situation. Confirmed tornado right there. That is it.
The National Weather Service now says that the twister that struck this Norman, Oklahoma neighborhood was at least an EF2 with winds of at least 110 miles an hour. At least 12 people were hurt. Joseph and Vicky Levine riding out the storm in their bathtub with their 3-year-old and 11-month-old baby.
It happened fast. Honestly, all I heard was a boom, and then he pulled the covers over, and then we just stayed there for a bit. It was loud and windy, and then it stopped.
The storms barreling out of California, where they dumped nearly a year's worth of rain in some spots. Matt Gutman in the hills north of Los Angeles.
That deluge bringing down that entire hillside, hundreds of tons of mud, came punching right through this house, obliterating the back 3 bedrooms. Now, firefighters telling us it also has spilled into the property on the other side. That concrete-like mud, 5 feet deep.
In Northern California, a new system now dumping up to 7 feet of additional snow in the Sierra Nevada mountains. This storm set to head all the way east.
Maria Villarreal joins us now from Norman. And Maria, it was certainly a rough night there for so many. How are the families that you're talking with responding to what happened?
Well, you know, Lindsay, if you can believe it, this was one night, one tornado here in Norman, Oklahoma. Now dozens of homes have been destroyed. The Larson family, we spoke with them earlier today. I mean, they rode out the storm in this home right behind me. I mean, look at it. It is completely shifted off of its foundation. There is roof and fence scattered everywhere. And if you can believe it, they survived. They are doing okay. They are now living in a hotel. But they tell us they're very worried about this next line of storms that's expected to hit the region in just a few days.
All right, Maria, our thanks to you, and our hearts certainly go out to those families. Our chief meteorologist, Ginger Z, joins us now. Ginger, time this storm out for us.
So, Lindsay, this is the warm-up. We're about to see our first flakes. And remember, this has been such a mild season. We've only had that 0.4 inches of snow in New York City, only 0.3 for Philadelphia. Philadelphia is not going to get a lot out of this. It's going to stay on the warmer side, but I want you to take you through the timing. Overnight tonight is when most of it falls. And pay close attention to Interstate 80, not just because of travel, I-95 as well, but I-80 is kind of that cutoff, and it is sharp. So places like Brooklyn could get far less than even the north side of the Bronx. That's where New York City sits somewhere in the middle. By 7 a.m., you start to dry things out for New York. But look what happens in Hartford and Boston. It's wrapping up, and it slows down. So Vermont, New Hampshire, Albany East, anything there, Berkshires, could end up getting a considerable amount during the day on Tuesday. So look at this, 6 to 10 inches. Some of the highest elevations could see a foot or so, 3 to 6 inches north of New York City. I'd say New York ends up somewhere in that 2, 3, 4 inch range, but that's huge for this season. That would easily quadruple what we've already had. One of the first winter weather advisories in February kind of give us a little wink saying I'm still around. And then a look at what happens in the kind of longer range, the 6 to 10 day, still below average out west. So that's going to keep California cool, Arizona too, but above average. And again, just like last week, this week we could easily see dozens of record highs broken along the Gulf Coast through Florida. Lindsay?
Old man winter certainly is sticking around. Ginger, I don't know about for you. My son is thrilled. He has his first snow day of the year. Same for your boys?
Yes, a delay at least, and I think that's probably a good idea, even though most of it will be out of here. Give the kids a little something, because there's been nothing this entire season.
All right, Ginger, our thanks to you. Now to Ohio, a new fallout after that toxic train derailment. Authorities have resumed the process of removing hazardous waste from the site after some out-of-state officials refused to take it. At the same time, joint teams from several federal agencies have started going door to door to speak with residents of East Palestine. And even though the Ohio EPA says the municipal water supply is safe, many residents are still lining up for bottled water. Millions of Americans could lose access to abortion medication at any moment as we await to hear whether or not a conservative Texas judge will decide in favor of a lawsuit seeking to restrict access to one of the 2 drugs typically used to induce a medicated abortion. The lawsuit filed by an anti-abortion group claims that the Food and Drug Administration wrongly approved the drug for use more than 23 years ago. A ruling in favor of the abortion opponents could immediately shut down the sale of the product, but women would still have access to medicated abortions via a regimen with a separate pill. Next tonight, the defense resting its case in the trial of Alec Murdaugh. Murdaugh is accused of murdering his wife and son. His younger brother was among the last to testify today, and he defended his older brother. The defense also argued there were 2 killers, not 1, which is the first time that has been asserted in court. The prosecution is expected to call rebuttal witnesses tomorrow, and the jury will travel to the site of the killings on Wednesday. Closing arguments could begin as soon as Wednesday afternoon. The debate over the origin of COVID-19 is now renewing once more after the Wall Street Journal reported that the U.S. Energy Department thinks the virus most likely infected humans through an accidental lab leak, but their assessment was reportedly made with low confidence. The FBI agrees with them, but several other U.S. agencies disagree. So where does the evidence and the debate stand? ABC's Rachel Scott has the very latest from the White House.
Tonight, the White House responding to a new report that the Department of Energy believes the COVID pandemic likely started with a leak from the lab in Wuhan, China. The Wall Street Journal reporting the department, which oversees a network of national labs, reached the assessment with low confidence. But today, the White House insisting
there's just no consensus across the government. The president believes it's really important that we continue that work and that we find out as best we can how it started.
The Department of Energy is not revealing their evidence, which is classified.
Should the evidence that the department is basing this assessment on be shared with the American people?
As I said, if we have something that we believe can be reported to the Congress and to the American people that we're confident in, we will absolutely do that.
The intelligence community is divided on how the pandemic started. According to the Wall Street Journal, the FBI agrees with the Department of Energy that it likely began with a lab leak in Wuhan, a conclusion they reach with moderate confidence. But 4 other intelligence agencies have determined the virus was more likely spread through natural transmission, a human being exposed to an infected animal.
What agency is taking the lead on this?
This is a whole of government effort.
The White House says the president wants to get to the bottom of what happened in order to prevent another pandemic. Tonight, China insisting the U.S. should stop speculating and stop discrediting China.
Some terse words there from China. Rachel Scott joins us now from the White House. And Rachel, we should really note that according to the Wall Street Journal, the Department of Energy says that they reached their assessment with, quote, low confidence. Explain what that means.
Well, in the intelligence community, it generally means that the information is scant, questionable, or too fragmented. So bottom line, there is no smoking gun. There's no firm consensus around this. The White House insists tonight that the president is on top of it. But the reality is, without China's cooperation, the U.S. only has access to limited information. Lindsay?
Rachel Scott from the White House for us. Thanks so much, Rachel. A humanitarian tragedy off the coast of Italy. Dozens were killed, including children, just a small distance away from reaching shore after a boat capsized. ABC's Inez de la Quatara is in Italy for us. Inez?
Hey, Lindsay, yeah, officials say at least 62 migrants were killed, among them 10 children and a newborn, after a migrant boat carrying as many as 200 migrants sank off of the Calabria coast. We spoke to one eyewitness earlier who was the first to arrive on the scene after the wreckage began to wash ashore. He described utter chaos on the beach, in total darkness, mothers screaming and calling out for their children. This eyewitness says he got to work trying to pull bodies out of the water with just the light from his cell phone. At least 80 people did survive. Here's what Doctors Without Borders' Sergio Didato told us about their condition.
They are, of course, they are shocked. We are trying to help them to realize about the event. They ask very simple things. The first things that they were asking is to make a call. To explain and to inform the relatives that they have in their countries, to say I'm alive, or in some cases, I lost my brother, my sister, or my parents.
Officials say the boat set off from Turkey days ago. Most of the migrants on board were from places like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, and Iran. The search for survivors now continues. It is being complicated, though, by bad weather, and dozens of migrants are still unaccounted for. Lindsay?
Inez, thank you. And we do have a warning for this next story that the details are really quite grisly. An absolutely gruesome scene in Hong Kong. It has people there on edge. 4 family members, including the ex-husband of murdered Hong Kong socialite influencer Abby Choi, appeared in court today after police said that they discovered remains that are believed to belong to the 28-year-old. The remains were found in a large soup pot. Her body parts appeared to have been cooked along with green radishes and carrots. Police said the skull had a small hole in it, indicating that it could be evidence of a fatal attack. Authorities also said that Choi had financial disagreements with her ex-husband's family, adding that those relatives had slowed the investigation by giving misleading information. She leaves behind 4 children, including 2 with the suspect. Now to the latest in Ukraine. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen was in Kyiv today to meet with President Zelensky and announce a multi-billion-dollar support package. Her visit comes as Russia unleashed a new round of attacks, and with Zelensky acknowledging just how dire the situation has become in one war-torn city. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reports tonight from Ukraine.
Tonight, intense battles raging across the front lines in eastern Ukraine. New video showing street-to-street fighting in Bakhmut, the city in ruins. With Russia losing men and munitions, the U.S. warning China not to help Russia. The U.S. State Department saying if China were to provide lethal assistance to Russia, it'd have dire consequences for the people of Ukraine. China responding, accusing the U.S. of disinformation and a double standard. David pressing President Biden.
I know the State Department and the Pentagon now have both warned China not to offer lethal military assistance to Russia in this war with Ukraine, saying the U.S. is concerned that China is considering providing lethal support to Russia. Would that cross a line for you?
Look, it's not in China's. I had a very frank conversation with President Xi this past summer on this issue. The conversation went like this. I said, Mr. President, this is not a threat, it's just an assertion, a statement of what I think the reality is. You saw what happened when the rest of the world, Europe in particular, saw the brutality of what Putin was doing in Ukraine. And I said, without any government prodding, 600 American corporations left Russia, from McDonald's to Exxon to across the board. And I said, and if you are engaged in the same kind of brutality by supporting the brutality that's going on, I said, you may face the same consequence.
But if they did, would that be crossing a line for you, Mr. President?
It would be the same line everyone else would have crossed. In other words, we impose severe sanctions on anyone who has done that.
So there would be serious consequences?
I'll let you characterize what they would be. We would respond.
We visited the village of Kurilivka, one of many civilian areas repeatedly under Russian attack. Rita's home taking a direct strike. It's horrible, she says, but we'll hold on and hope God gives us victory.
Дай Бог, чтобы победим.
Ian Panel reporting for us from Ukraine. And Ian, I'd like you to stand by here. I want to welcome in Yuri Sak. He's an advisor to the Minister of Defense for Ukraine. Yuri, thank you so much for joining us. We're now starting year 2 of this war. The UN says more than 8,000 civilians have died. Russia is launching new attacks by the hour. And the destruction we're seeing in Bakhmut is just staggering. What's the front line in this war right now?
Good afternoon, Lindsay, and thank you for inviting me. Of course, the situation on the front lines is very difficult. In some places, the fierce fighting continues. There are cities such as Bakhmut, which have been under attack now for almost 8 months, actually, but the fighting during the past weeks has intensified. We are observing the buildup of Russian troops. They're increasing the intensity of their attacks. They're continuing to throw their soldiers as cannon fodder. Our Minister of Defense, Mr. Alexei Reznikov, just yesterday said that near Bakhmut, on a daily basis, Ukrainian army is killing approximately 500 Russian soldiers. So just this rate at which we are destroying the enemy, this rate in itself is a good testimony to the intensity of the fighting in the eastern front of Ukraine.
World News Tonight anchor David Muir asked President Biden about sending American F-16s to Ukraine on Friday. I want you to listen to part of that exchange.
But we know President Zelensky continues to say what he really needs are F-16s. Will you send F-16s?
Look, we're sending him what our seasoned military thinks he needs now.
You don't think he needs F-16s now?
No, he doesn't need F-16s now.
Is that a never?
Look, first of all, the idea that we know exactly what's going to be needed a year, 2, 3 from now, but there is no basis upon which there is a rationale, according to our military now, to provide F-16s.
But you're not ruling it out?
I am ruling it out for now.
For now.
Yuri, curious your response to that. What would you tell the president who's clearly saying that you don't need these planes?
Well, I'm tempted to say that there is this famous saying that, but I will paraphrase it. You don't bite the hand that gives you HIMARSs, that gives you tanks, and then hopefully will give you F-16s. Now, what I can say that we are thankful and grateful to the U.S. leadership when it comes to provision to Ukraine of the military assistance. Everything that we received so far, most often it's been a game changer. The HIMARS systems, now we're waiting for the Patriots, the tanks. Now, when it comes to F-16s, just let's look at the last 24 hours. Now, we've been, again, Ukraine was a target again of the drone attack. Now, our air defense forces have been able to shoot down 11 out of 14 Iranian drones. Now, and our president, when he was making his evening address, said it very clearly. So this is just a very good example why we need the F-16s, and we understand that these are sophisticated platforms. We understand that they require training. We understand that for each pilot there needs to be a crew of about 25 to 30 engineers. We understand that. But for us to be able to efficiently protect our skies, to make sure that situations like the one yesterday, the attacks, are repelled. Now, our air defense system will not be complete without F-16s. And I think, and I'm sure that everybody understands this. So, and I will just repeat that, we have seen during the last 12 months that, everything which seems impossible and which other allies are kind of reluctant or hesitant to provide us, sooner or later we get this. So we are just asking, let's make it sooner rather than later.
I want to bring in our chief foreign correspondent, Ian Panel. Ian, I know you have a few questions.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, Yuri, good evening. I'd like to ask you about waning U.S. support. It's something I asked President Zelensky about in his press conference on Friday. As you know, the numbers are falling of Americans who support the funding or the support to Ukraine. Can you tell me, as we go into the second war in Ukraine, why should Americans continue to care and continue to pay for Ukraine's war?
Well, I would answer that making 2 points. Point number one, during the latest NATO summit in Madrid, the NATO members have said it very clearly that Russia is the most real threat to NATO allies and to the US in particular. So that's number one. Point number two, yesterday, while here in Washington, D.C., I went to visit the Arlington Cemetery. And American people know the price that has to be paid for freedom. So, and I think this is the key factor why American people and the American government will continue to stand with Ukraine, because of all the nations on this planet, this country knows that freedom comes at a cost. And I believe that, there are now estimates that on average, the repelling of the greatest evil that we have to face now cost the American taxpayers on average, 50 cents per day. So, this seems to be not a very high price to pay to save the world from the spread of this NATO. And I will have to repeat this, we've never asked the American army, American soldiers to fight for us. We are doing it ourselves. We just want the American people and the government to stand with us, and, this will bring us closer to the victory in this freedom war, because we are fighting not just for Ukraine, not just for Bakhmut, Mariupol, Kherson. We are fighting for our shared values, for our common freedom. And I think this is the deep-seated reason why our alliance must continue, and I'm sure that it will.
Ian also reported tonight on the warning from the U.S. to China not to arm the Russians. How concerned are you about China taking a more active role in this war?
Of course, we are concerned about any country willing to support Russia in their aggression against our people, against our country, against our values. Now, because we are already having to deal with the Russia's alliance with Iran, who is providing Russia with the lethal drones, and there are talks that Russia will be planning to get cruise missiles from Iran as well. So we hope that China, as a major player on the international arena, is not interested in supporting the country which is a terrorist state, which is an aggressor, which has violated every article on the UN Charter, because, China wants, it's logical that China probably will be better off living in a predictable world based on rules rather than on chaos and dominance of tyrants. So we hope that China continues to have a pragmatic approach, that China will not supply any weapons. And, our president said it very clearly that we will be talking to the Chinese government, and with a view to making sure that through diplomatic means, China remains at least neutral.
Yuri Sak, Ian Panel, we thank you so much for just this time and really to discuss this important conversation. Appreciate you both.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay.
Still much more ahead to get to here on Prime tonight. Coming up, as concerns rise over chatbots, a social media company is now rolling out its own artificial intelligence feature. Plus, the road to the Oscars. Nominated actress Angela Bassett talks about her scene-stealing moment in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and what it feels like to make history. But next, the Biden administration student relief plan will face a major test as it goes before the Supreme Court. We go to Missouri, where the decision could be make or break for those in need.
I think that everyone has a right to say how their taxes are being spent. I feel like taxes are for the greater good, and this is for the greater good.
Whenever news breaks,
the crush of families here in Poland.
Here in Kentucky, no match for the tornado.
From Monterey Park, California, on the ground in Ukraine.
Reporting from Uvalde, Texas, ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
From Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
From Kathmandu, Nepal.
In Truckee, California, covering record snowfall.
Traveling with the president in Mexico City.
Wherever the story.
Here at this airport in Tampa, it's already shut down.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
Reporting from Jerusalem.
Here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is. We're going to take you there.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live. Streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news. He may not look like central casting for a movie star hero, but what he did and how he risked it all to save hundreds of lives from terror are what heroes are made of.
Really? That guy?
What's the life and death truth behind what he did? Truth and Lies, The Informant. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey, I'm David Muir. Wherever the story, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
The Biden administration says its student debt relief plan could benefit more than 40 million Americans, eliminating thousands of dollars in federal loans. But tomorrow at the U.S. Supreme Court, a group of 6 Republican-led states will fight to block it, calling it unfair and alleging a potential hit to tax revenue. Tonight in our Prime Focus, we're taking a closer look at their case and why some experts say it could come down entirely to one state, the Show Me State. Here's ABC's Devin Dwyer.
The bid to block federal student loan forgiveness for millions of American graduates could hinge entirely on the state of Missouri. Anna Bain is one of nearly 500,000 Missourians who has debt relief on the line.
I spend a lot of time worrying about how I'm going to pay that money back.
She's a sophomore journalism major at the University of Missouri and recently applied to have some of her $12,000 in student loans forgiven by the federal government.
Why is it that you think that the government should pick up that tab?
It is a fair point to raise. I think that everyone has a right to say how their taxes are being spent. I feel like taxes are for the greater good, and this is for the greater good.
The U.S. Education Department last year, citing a need to protect the greater good during the pandemic, invoked emergency powers.
This is a game changer.
The agency offered to absolve as much as $20,000 of federal student loans for more than 40 million eligible borrowers. But the plan's $430 billion price tag didn't sit well with Republicans in 6 states, who saw it as a bailout exclusive to college students. Missouri's then Attorney General Eric Schmitt sued to stop it.
Why did you bring this case as Attorney General?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. The first is Joe Biden had no legal authority whatsoever. I think the larger issue is it's unfair to people who paid off their loans. It's unfair to people who didn't take out loans.
Perceived unfairness, however, isn't a legal basis to sue the government in court. A state needs to prove it's been directly and concretely harmed in order to establish a legal standing to bring a case. The dispute over Biden's student debt relief plan could come down to this question.
How is federal debt relief for almost 500,000 Missourians, how does that hurt Missouri? Isn't it good for Missouri?
Well, I mean, it's adding to our debt, number one. I think the reason why this case is before the Supreme Court and why Missouri and the other states are ultimately going to win is because Missouri has a loan servicing organization called MOHELA that derives revenue from interest.
MOHELA, or the Missouri Higher Education Loan Authority, is the nation's largest servicer of federal student loans, with more than 5 million accounts totaling $148 billion. Missouri's new Attorney General Andrew Bailey says forgiving most of those loans would mean less money for MOHELA and in turn fewer benefits for Missouri.
It's a public entity. The court has identified it as a public entity that administers student loans and provides college assistance programs for people across the state of Missouri. And so the state has an interest in it.
He says the most direct financial interest is a state law requiring MOHELA to pay $350 million to help fund improvements to state colleges and universities. Some of the money has been used for upgrades, like this medical center in Columbia, but MOHELA still owes $105 million more.
The state is directly harmed by Biden's unconstitutional action, this crooked Biden bailout. And so we're going to fight to defend the rule of law and defend the Constitution.
A federal appeals court, which put Biden's debt relief plan on hold last year, cited threatened financial harm to Missouri because of its ties to MOHELA. But both liberal and conservative legal scholars say the connection is a stretch.
The relationship between Missouri and MOHELA, as our research has shown in the law that created MOHELA, that harm just cannot happen.
David Nemias at the Berkeley Center for Consumer Law and Economic Justice filed an amicus brief in the case on behalf of Missouri consumer advocates.
MOHELA is completely separate and distinct from the state of Missouri. Its operations are distinct from Missouri. Its treasury, its finances are completely walled off from Missouri's treasury.
MOHELA, which did not respond to our repeated requests for comment or an interview, is notably not challenging the Biden loan forgiveness plan. Missouri Congresswoman Cori Bush says the company is being used as a pawn.
MOHELA was created by the state, but they are not a part of the state. They are an independent servicer, and it's a nonprofit.
So I guess the question to you is if the Biden administration wipes out all these accounts from MOHELA, won't that hurt Missourians?
No. Again, they owe over about $105 million. They have not kept that up. And so to say that you have borrowers who, they need to pay what they owed, well, Mohila does not pay what they owe.
Mohila financial records reviewed by ABC News confirm the loan servicer has not made a payment to the state fund since 2008 and may not make any future payments, even if the Biden debt relief plan is struck down.
Why does it matter that they haven't made a payment?
In order to sue in federal court, you have to show that you are going to be threatened with a certain impending injury. The states have shown no link between the effect of debt cancellation on Mohila's effect to even pay, even if they wanted them.
Isn't that significant?
Well, obviously that's an issue that the court's going to have to sort out. I mean, we've got arguments on the other side of that.
Some top conservative legal scholars have told the Supreme Court while they don't like the debt cancellation plan, letting Missouri challenge it could set a dangerous precedent.
If these states are granted standing here, it could lead to far broader abilities of the states to haul the federal government into court.
A high-stakes decision that hinges entirely on whether the justices believe debt relief for millions hurts Mohila, which in turn hurts Missouri.
It definitely doesn't add up to me. The soaring cost of higher education these days is so insane and so inaccessible for so many people. And I think that just leveling out the playing fields, I think that's really important.
So many families say they're just getting absolutely crushed by these debts. Devin joins us now. Devin, any sense of how the justices may come down on this one? And if the Supreme Court strikes down the plan, is there any other chance for student debt relief?
It's a great question, Lindsay. I mean, the government does have other tools and authorities they can use to ease repayment of federal student loans. And the White House has said that if they lose this case, they're certainly going to go back to the drawing board to keep fighting for that. But unless Congress specifically enacts a large-scale debt forgiveness plan, it's almost certain that anything the administration does will end up back in court. And that's why a lot of people are going to be watching this very, very closely tomorrow. We'll have to see what types of questions the justices ask to see if they'll buy Missouri's argument here. So much on the line, though, so stay tuned tomorrow, Lindsay.
We will certainly be watching. Devin Dwyer, thanks to you as always.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Still much more ahead. Coming up, a new study is raising concerns about certain sweeteners, the ingredient that could raise risk for people already in danger of cardiovascular disease. But next, a powerful speech from former basketball player Dwayne Wade and actress Gabrielle Union on black transgender youth. We take a closer look at gender-affirming care for minors by the numbers.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television.
This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
in Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
From the capital, destructive Cat 4 storm.
You're along I-5.
Boston is in the bullseye. Let's go.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
From America's #1 news comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and customizable to your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now. This is where the newsmakers come first in the morning to be heard. America's #1 morning show.
How would your mom feel about your relationship with your brother now?
I can't imagine what it feels like to go from $20 billion to $100,000. Yeah. Are you worried about going to jail?
You write that you had low-grade depression. How'd you get out of that?
Wherever the story, ABC's Good Morning America is right there.
Two of the hottest rappers coming out of Atlanta.
Young Thug and Gunna.
Charged in a sweeping 56-count indictment.
What is this? Rap is back on trial.
You decide to admit your crimes over a beat, I'm gonna use it. What is happening?
There's lots of us locked up in prison. We're not gonna let that happen on our watch. Not with hip-hop music, using our lyrics. We're gonna fight back.
Rap, trap, hip-hop on trial. Only on Hulu.
This is ABC News Live Prime.
Hey there, I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us.
Live reporting, breaking news, exclusives, award-winning, powerful, eye-opening.
How lucky are we?
ABC News Live Prime with Lindsay Davis. All new, streaming weeknights.
With so much at stake in our world right now, we wanted to thank you for your trust
and for making ABC News America's #1 news.
And thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Reporting from Monterey Park, California, I'm Robin Roberts. Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Zaya, as your father, all I've wanted to do was get it right. I've sat back and watched how gracefully you've taken on the public scrutiny. And even though it's not easy, I watched you walk out of the house every morning as yourself. I admire how you've handled the ignorance in our world. I admire it.
At the foot of a very new era of activism. A new era that demands our collective answer to one simple question. Will we fight for some, or will we fight for all of our people?
That was Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union Saturday night at the NAACP Image Awards, delivering a powerful acceptance speech on the importance of supporting the Black, trans, and LGBTQ community, dedicating the award to their 15-year-old daughter, Zaya, who is transgender. But at the moment, several states across the country are considering bans on gender-affirming care for transgender minors, according to ABC News analysis. Let's take a look by the numbers. At least 6 states have passed laws or policies that restrict gender-affirming care for people under the threshold for legal adulthood. Gender-affirming care refers to puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and surgical procedures, according to HHS, as well as social affirmations such as the adoption of a name, hairstyles, clothing, pronouns, and restroom use that aligns with someone's gender identity. Laws in 2 of those states, Alabama and Arkansas, have been temporarily blocked as they're being battled in the courts. And at least 25 other states' local legislatures are considering or have introduced bills that would similarly restrict gender-affirming care for trans youth. Several of the legislative efforts criminalize gender-affirming procedures. A record 321 anti-LGBTQ bills have been introduced or debated in 2023, reported by the ACLU. But according to the Human Rights Campaign, 91% of last year's 315 anti-LGBTQ efforts failed. Meanwhile, 19 states plus D.C. either have no bans or have made strides in protecting access to care for transgender people, including in Alaska, Illinois, Minnesota, and California. The debate over trans rights and other culture war issues are sure to play a role in the 2024 election, and we're just now over 5 months away from the first GOP presidential candidate debate scheduled for August. There's still much more ahead on Prime tonight. A warning about cell phone thefts, how robbers are getting away with much more than just your mobile device, and a conversation with groundbreaking actress Angela Bassett, who's nominated for an Oscar this year, and how she finds the balance in portraying complex characters in our road to the Oscars.
You appreciate the vulnerability when you see the strength, or vice versa. You know, we appreciate the day because of the night. We appreciate the sun because of the storm.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things change hour by hour, minute by minute.
The historic weather that's now unfolding.
The worries on Wall Street.
We're bringing you the Right Now. With a nationwide teacher shortage.
The Right Now look at the day ahead. An alert this morning for dog owners and the key takeaways from the biggest stories.
World News Now and America This Morning, America's #1 early morning news.
Today does feel a little different. Early mornings on ABC News Live. This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
in Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
From the capital, destructive Cat 4 storm.
You're along I-5.
Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Disturbing is the word to describe this story.
Master manipulator Larry Ray terrorizing his daughter's classmates.
More than a decade of abuse.
Psychological torture, sleep deprivation, sexual humiliation. That's only the half of it.
I want to get out! Watching the documentary for the first time was so emotional.
I have no memory of that happening.
If he wanted to get to you, please, he would.
Under His Spell, Impact by Nightline, now streaming on Hulu.
Get ready, America, every Friday.
The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy the right stuff.
Yes!
And save big time, too.
The right stuff.
Fridays on GMA. You're going to love it.
This week, Michael's taking you live to one of the most remote inhabited islands anywhere in the world. An island filled with mystery, beauty, and magical wonder. Easter Island Live. You're invited for the Morning Global event. Good Morning America this week.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
From America's #1 news comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and customizable to your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now.
Florida's governor signs a law changing Disney World status. A social media company is joining the chatbot craze, and why new editions of the James Bond books will feature some edits. Those stories and much more in tonight's rundown.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill giving him control over Walt Disney World's self-governing district. The signing culminates a long effort by DeSantis to remove Disney's self-governing status, a push he started after Disney publicly condemned the state's so-called Don't Say Gay law last year. As part of the legislation, DeSantis will appoint a 5-member board to oversee the government services for the district. Disney is the parent company of ABC News. Snapchat is the latest company to get involved with AI technology. The company introduced My AI, a chatbot powered by ChatGPT technology that has been customized for Snapchat. While the company says My AI is designed to avoid misleading or harmful information, it says mistakes still can be made, and the AI could be tricked into saying just about anything. The feature is rolling out this week as an experimental feature for Snapchat Plus subscribers. A new study is suggesting high levels of an artificial sweetener could increase the risk of heart attack or stroke in people at risk of cardiovascular disease. The Nature study said erythritol, a sweetener often used in keto-friendly foods, increased the risks. The study looked at 4,000 people from the U.S. and Europe. Researchers said more studies were needed to confirm the results in a general population and advised people to consult with doctors or dietitians for dietary advice. A major transportation milestone in New York City. The Long Island Railroad train system has now begun stopping in the new Grand Central Madison Terminal. It's the first new major rail terminal opened in the U.S. in 67 years and marks the first extension of the Long Island Railroad in 112 years. The new schedules are expected to increase service levels and offer direct access to the east side of Manhattan. The changes are also part of a larger $17 billion investment made to update the Long Island Railroad.
New editions of James Bond books will be edited to remove racist references of Black people. The publisher says the new editions of Ian Fleming's work will also carry a disclaimer. However, dated descriptions of other ethnicities remain. The books are being re-released to mark 70 years since Casino Royale, the first book in the series.
A second member of the mega K-pop band BTS is signing up for mandatory military service. J-Hope is beginning the process for enlisting in the South Korean military, according to the band's label. It comes just 2 months after fellow band member Jin began his military service. All able-bodied men are required to serve 18 months in the South Korean military and enlist between ages 18 through 28, though a legislative revision allowed pop artists to delay. The band's label previously said each band member would serve their mandated time in the military and look to reconvene in 2025.
A queen on screen and off. Actress Angela Bassett has been captivating viewers with her powerful performances for decades. And now a new accomplishment. Bassett became the first female actress to be nominated for Marvel Film in this year's Academy Awards with a nod for Best Supporting Actress in Wakanda Forever. Bassett reprised her role as Ramonda, the Queen Mother of Wakanda. In the part, Bassett was tasked with portraying grief, feeling all too familiar just a few years after the death of Chadwick Boseman, who played her son in the original Black Panther movie. I sat down with Bassett in Los Angeles to talk about making history and her advice to young girls, including Black girls who are ready to step into their own power. Congratulations on nomination number 2.
Thank you.
Last time was 30 years ago for What's Love Got to Do with It. How is this time different?
Oh my gosh, it seems a little bit more hectic, but I'm just trying to take it in. It was an absolute total shock then, you know. I guess there was some surprising element with this one, with it being the first nomination for a Marvel movie, but it's all exciting, it's all great.
We know what you whisper. Protector.
And really kind of historic because, as you were just mentioning, first woman, first person of color, first time a Marvel actor has ever been nominated for an Oscar in a comic book movie adaptation.
Have I not given everything?
When you were doing, the line, for example, have I not given everything, right? Did you realize the magnitude of your character, of your portrayal, and how it could really land in such an impactful way?
Oh, no, I didn't think that far ahead, but I know, I felt the power even in the first reading of the script, of that line, of that moment, and the truth of it, how it resonates for that character. She truly has, her entire family, and she's given her life and her energy to her country. So, yes, indeed, and she's lost her family.
Queen Ramonda is stately and strong and beautiful. Curious what your message would be, or what you hope young black girls in particular, but all girls perhaps, will take away from seeing your portrayal.
Oh, that their very essence, their very being is marvelous. It's marvelous, it's graceful, it is enough. And they truly can rise and become anything that they desire, that they put their heart and their mind to, that they give the full measure of their devotion. They can rise as Ramonda did.
And tell me about the depth of that character, because she's strong, but yet she's vulnerable. We see so much when you have that kind of wide-ranging emotion. Do you enjoy playing a character like that more?
Absolutely. I think in all my characters, I try to find that. I don't think we're one thing. I don't think we're one thing, just strong. Strong without that counterbalance. You appreciate the vulnerability when you see the strength, or vice versa. We appreciate the day because of the night. We appreciate the sun because of the storm. So I look for that juxtaposition also in characters also. The joy against the grief.
Curious how with Chadwick's passing, and obviously you had real world grief, how you brought that then into your delivery in the movie.
You don't have to travel far for that. That lives within us. It's really, we have him in our heart and in our hand. He made such an impact and an imprint on each of us on that set, and of course on audiences around the world. And it is your time to be king. So that's not something that you had to, grasp for. You live with it, the memory of him, and how kind and marvelous a human being and man and actor that he was.
First movie that you remember really making an impact on you?
Ooh, Lady Sings the Blues.
Favorite movie snack?
Popcorn.
Person who you would say you would like to really give a lot of the credit for how much you have achieved?
My mother.
How would you finish this sentence? As a woman in film, I want young girls to know
that they are everything. Everything wonderful.
Our road to the Oscars continues tomorrow when I sit down with actor Paul Mescal on fatherhood and his first nomination. The gift of music, from the sounds that we hear every day to rhythm and blues, music is a language that unites the world through the expression of emotions. Recently, I had the chance to sit down with 2 Grammy-nominated artists, Sheila E. and Chloe Bailey, to discuss the power of music and the power they carry in the industry. Here's that conversation.
Glamorous Life is a song that was written so that I can show everyone that I play timbales. I play percussion. I'm a musician first.
For me, the pressure to be great, I kind of forced that upon myself since I was 5 years old.
I was already established before I met Prince, and he was actually following my career when I met him. we influenced each other a lot. So there's no pressure because to me, we were equal.
Growing up and being inspired by Beyonce and Destiny's Child, and you know, the crazy thing is, when I was 4 years old, I played the younger version of her before I really knew who she truly was. And it's crazy how fast forward years and years later, the universe said, haha. And you know, my sister and I are now signed to her and Parkwood Entertainment.
Thank you, ladies, for having this conversation with us.
Absolutely.
So appreciate it, excited about it. I want to start in an unconventional way. Your fourth album was called Sex Symbol. They call me a sex symbol. It's up to them just what you are.
Wow, you went there. Okay, we're starting early. No, I mean, I was young, and so it's like, at that time, that fourth record, I wanted to be who I wanted to be. They are like, this is what you should be. And I'm like, no, this is who I am.
Chloe, I want to bring you in because you're not just a singer, you're a musician. You're in the back figuring out the beats and really composing the songs. Why is that still such a space that men often dominate, and why was it so important for you? Why is it so important for you to be in that space?
Yes, well, I'm such a nerd at heart, and I love music and math, and I think that's why I heavily got into engineering and producing. Yes, it's a male-dominated industry, but women do it all the time. We're just not given the proper spotlight and the attention and the pedestal that men are. So because of women like Sheila E. and Missy Elliott and a lot of incredible women paving the way for girls like me, I'm able to do what I love.
In pieces, what does that mean?
When life continues to wear you down, you're left in pieces, your heart's in pieces. And as we were really figuring out how I would show that visually, we were on a call, and my godmom, she was like, I see this glass box, and you breaking through that. It was crazy to think how what's also in pieces is the mold and the box that people have put me in, and what people have thought what Chloe Bailey is.
What do you feel about streaming?
I think now, being in this time, I have to. But I gotta be honest, it does break my heart knowing with like legends like you, and you hear them saying they sold such and such physical copies. Me and my peers will never reach that.
But let me say this though, we're waiting for the young people such as you to change what's happening.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting at the top of the mountain right now yelling that the streaming is wrong. But we're waiting for you, people like you, to say, I'm not gonna stream my music. You know why I'm not gonna stream it? Because we don't get paid.
Yeah.
One thing that you didn't have when you were growing up in this industry is social media.
Right.
And I'm curious how you both handle the criticism.
Social media is good and bad, you know? It can be a blessing and a curse. And I try to just stay as positive as I can. I've asked my fans to respect my page, and that if you want to say something bad, then don't follow me. Then I'm blocking people constantly because I don't want to, I don't want to see that. I don't want the poison.
Do you look yourself up?
I used to, and I don't anymore. I even got rid of Twitter. So if you see me posting, it's my label, or I'll go on there periodically to do like Q&As. I started realizing that it was affecting my mental health and how I saw myself. Because no matter how strong of a person you are, no matter how tough your skin is, we're still human.
Turn it off.
Yeah, I turned everything off.
Talking about your upcoming album, In Pieces, you said the hardest and the easiest track was number 9.
Yes.
What do you mean by that? How is it the hardest and the easiest?
So I'll give a little tiny tidbit. So that one, it's called Make It Look Easy, and everybody sees the front facing. And they never know what a human being had to go through to get there. So, yeah.
What you just said right now was very emotional for you.
Yeah.
Why?
I think because I'm really proud of myself, and I think if I even let anyone know an ounce of what I've gone through, they wouldn't believe me. So because of that and the woman that I became coming out of it, I'm so proud of myself.
You should be.
And that's really, you know, that's what the record is about.
It's beautiful.
Can we get a tissue?
Can we get a
Thank you.
You think you'll ever share that backstory? It feels like it's right at the surface, like you're very full.
I'll share it through the music.
Yeah.
I'm still a very private person.
Sure.
But, you know, you never know.
So I have a request.
Yes.
Can we write a song together?
I would be honored, and I would love that.
That would be
any time of any day.
Good.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Heard it.
Please, believe.
It's happening.
It's about to drop. We're looking forward to that collaboration.
That would be
incredible.
It would be an honor.
I would be honored.
Okay. I feel the same.
Okay. Yay. Such great energy with those ladies. The ABC News Live Black History Month special Culture Conversations is streaming now on Hulu. Finally tonight, the new college champions making history. Whit Johnson reports on their tremendous accomplishment.
History in the swimming pool. The Howard University men's swimming and diving team winning their first conference championship in more than 3 decades.
It's the first conference title for our men's program in 34 years.
Coach Nicholas Askew leading the Howard University Bison since 2014, the only all-black college swim team in the country.
We are Bison. We are extremely tough. We're extremely resilient.
The young men and women at this historically black university are breaking records and breaking barriers. Coach Askew, a Howard swim and tennis alum himself, is on a mission to shake up swimming, to make it more inclusive and create an energy that excites the fans and competitors.
Howard is a very special place. We have young men and young women that really, really love being here because for the first time, they are in a sport in a collegiate atmosphere that they don't feel by themselves. They have their cup full because now they're swimming and diving with people who look like them.
He's determined to maintain his players' spots on the leaderboards with an emphasis on hard work and character.
There's really no days off. There's a saying we use all the time, don't count the laps, make the laps count.
But with a goal to inspire change, Coach Askew insists his responsibility goes beyond the pool.
My thing to them is, your purpose is bigger than just what we do here as an athlete. Your purpose for being here has so much to do with you becoming the best version of yourself.
So exciting, and our thanks to Whit Johnson for bringing us that. That's our show for this hour. I'm Lindsay Davis. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Coming up in the next hour, what Fox Chairman Rupert Murdoch is saying about election news coverage that's resulted in a $1.6 billion lawsuit. And black women accounted for 1/3 of women reported missing in 2020. Actress and executive producer Garcelle Beauvais tells us how her new film is shining a light on these real-life stories.
With so much at stake in our world right now, we wanted to thank you for your trust and for making ABC News America's #1 news.
And thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
After an extraordinary news-making year, thank you for making ABC's This Week America's #1 news and politics show on Sunday mornings. This is where the newsmakers come first in the morning to be heard. America's #1 morning show.
How would your mom feel about your relationship with your brother now?
I can't imagine what it feels like to go from $20 billion to $100,000. Yeah. Are you worried about going to jail?
You write that you had low-grade depression. How'd you get out of that?
Wherever the story, ABC's Good Morning America is right there.
This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
in Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
From the capital. Destructive Cat 4 storm.
We're along I-5.
Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
This is ABC News Live Prime.
Hey there, I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us.
Live reporting, breaking news, exclusives, award-winning, powerful, eye-opening.
How lucky are we?
ABC News Live Prime with Lindsay Davis. All new, streaming weeknights.
Reporting from Columbiana, Ohio, I'm Alex Perche. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Hey there, I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're monitoring several developments here at ABC News at this hour. In Texas, the battle to safely access abortion carries on as we await to hear whether or not a conservative judge will decide in favor of a lawsuit seeking to restrict access to one of the 2 drugs typically used to induce a medicated abortion. The lawsuit filed by an anti-abortion group claims the Food and Drug Administration wrongly approved the drug for use more than 23 years ago. A ruling in favor of the abortion opponents could immediately shut down the sale of the product, but women would still have access to medicated abortion via a regimen with a separate pill. In Ohio, new fallout after that toxic train derailment. Authorities have resumed the process of removing hazardous waste from the site after some out-of-state officials refused to take it. At the same time, joint teams from several federal agencies have started going door to door to speak with residents of East Palestine. And even though the Ohio EPA says the municipal water supply is safe, many residents are still lining up for bottled water. Dilbert creator Scott Adams continues to see his reach shrink as dozens of newspapers and a major comic strip platform said they would no longer publish his long-running office workplace comic strip over his recent racist remarks. During a recent episode of his YouTube show, Adams described people who are black as members of a hate group from which white people should get away. Various media publishers across the U.S. denounced the comments as racist, hateful, and discriminatory, while saying they would no longer provide a platform for his work. And now we get to the severe weather threat in at least 35 states tonight, with 2 major winter storms making their way across the country. Several states are cleaning up after some major tornadoes. Maria Villarreal reports for us tonight from the tornado zone in Norman, Oklahoma.
Tonight, that coast-to-coast storm system spawning twisters in the Midwest. After rocking the southern plains with at least 10 reported tornadoes overnight, claiming at least 1 life. Tornado sirens sounding in Yukon, Oklahoma.
This is a serious situation. Confirmed tornado right there. That is it.
The National Weather Service now says that the twister that struck this Norman, Oklahoma neighborhood was at least an EF2 with winds of at least 110 miles an hour. At least 12 people were hurt. Joseph and Vicki Levine riding out the storm in their bathtub with their 3-year-old and 11-month-old baby.
It happened fast. Honestly, all I heard was a boom, and then he pulled the covers over, and then we just stayed there for a bit. It was loud and windy, and then it stopped.
The storms barreling out of California, where they dumped nearly a year's worth of rain in some spots. Matt Gutman in the hills north of Los Angeles.
That deluge bringing down that entire hillside, hundreds of tons of mud, came punching right through this house, obliterating the back 3 bedrooms. Now, firefighters telling us it also has spilled into the property on the other side, that concrete-like mud, 5 feet deep.
In Northern California, a new system now dumping up to 7 feet of additional snow in the Sierra Nevada mountains. This storm set to head all the way east.
Our thanks to Maria for that. Now to the renewed debate over the origin of COVID-19. The Wall Street Journal reports that the U.S. Energy Department now thinks that the virus most likely infected humans through an accidental lab leak, but their assessment was made with, quote, low confidence. The FBI agrees with them, but several other U.S. agencies disagree. So where does the evidence in the debate stand? ABC's Rachel Scott has the very latest from the White House.
Tonight, the White House responding to a new report that the Department of Energy believes the COVID pandemic likely started with a leak from the lab in Wuhan, China. The Wall Street Journal reporting the department, which oversees a network of national labs, reached the assessment with low confidence, But today, the White House insisting
there's just no consensus across the government. The president believes it's really important that we continue that work and that we find out as best we can how it started.
The Department of Energy is not revealing their evidence, which is classified.
Should the evidence that the department is basing this assessment on be shared with the American people?
As I said, if we have something that we believe can be reported to the Congress and to the American people that we're confident in, we will absolutely do that.
The intelligence community is divided on how the pandemic started. According to the Wall Street Journal, the FBI agrees with the Department of Energy that it likely began with a lab leak in Wuhan, a conclusion they reach with moderate confidence. But 4 other intelligence agencies have determined the virus was more likely spread through natural transmission, a human being exposed to an infected animal.
What agency is taking the lead on this?
This is a whole-of-government effort.
The White House says the president wants to get to the bottom of what happened in order to prevent another pandemic. Tonight, China insisting the U.S. should stop speculating and stop discrediting China.
Some terse words there from China. Rachel Scott joins us now from the White House. And Rachel, we should really note that according to the Wall Street Journal, the Department of Energy says that they reached their assessment with, quote, low confidence. Explain what that means.
Well, in the intelligence community, it generally means that the information is scant, questionable, or too fragmented. So bottom line, there is no smoking gun. There's no firm consensus around this. The White House insists tonight that the president is on top of it. But the reality is, without China's cooperation, the U.S. only has access to limited information. Lindsay.
Rachel Scott from the White House for us. Thanks so much, Rachel. Next tonight, to a new bombshell involving Fox News and owner Rupert Murdoch. We're learning Murdoch acknowledged under oath that Fox News hosts endorse false election fraud claims, and any Fox News executives who knowingly allowed lies to be broadcast on the air should be reprimanded or may be fired. Our chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl reports.
Tonight, we are learning Fox News boss Rupert Murdoch said in a sworn deposition that any Fox News executives who allowed lies about the 2020 election to be broadcast, quote, should be reprimanded or maybe got rid of. In the days leading up to January 6th, Fox broadcast lies from Donald Trump's lawyers, Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, that Dominion voting machines in several states were being manipulated by shadowy foreign entities, even hinting dead Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez played a role.
We use largely a Venezuelan voting machine, in essence, to count our vote. We let this happen, we're going to become Venezuela.
What can you tell us about the interest on the other side of this Dominion software?
Well, obviously, they have invested in it for their own reasons and are using it to commit this fraud to steal votes.
Dominion is now suing Fox News for defamation, and their court filings reveal top Fox hosts like Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham privately trashed the Trump team. Sidney Powell is lying, by the way, Carlson wrote to Ingraham. It's insane. Ingraham responded, Sidney is a complete nut. No one will work with her. Ditto with Rudy. It's unbelievably offensive. Our viewers are good people, and they believe it. Sean Hannity saying, I did not believe it for 1 second. But in his deposition, which took place just last month, Murdoch conceded, quote, some of our commentators were endorsing the election lies on their shows. And the court filing makes clear that after the riot at the Capitol, Murdoch was through with Donald Trump. Writing in one email, Fox News very busy pivoting. We want to make Trump a non-person.
Really some telling stuff there. Jonathan Karl joins us now. John, how is Fox News responding tonight?
Lindsay, Fox is saying that what they were doing was simply reporting and commenting on the statements of a sitting president. They are accusing Dominion in this lawsuit of, quote, trying to publicly smear Fox. But interestingly, Rupert Murdoch, in his sworn deposition, said that in hindsight, he would have liked the network to have been more forceful in denouncing Trump's lies. So that's what he said in his deposition. And of course, the network was not particularly forceful in denouncing those lies. Lindsay?
That's right. Okay, Jonathan Karl, our thanks to you as always. Now to the war in Ukraine as Russia continues its ruthless assault and Ukraine fights back while continuing to see greater weapons assistance. Meanwhile, the U.S. is warning China against arming the Russian military. But will China listen? ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reports tonight from Ukraine.
Tonight, intense battles raging across the front lines in eastern Ukraine. New video showing street-to-street fighting in Bakhmut, the city in ruins. With Russia losing men and munitions, the US warning China not to help Russia. The US State Department saying if China were to provide lethal assistance to Russia, it'd have dire consequences for the people of Ukraine. China responding, accusing the US of disinformation and a double standard. David pressing President Biden.
I know the State Department and the Pentagon now have both warned China not to offer lethal military assistance to Russia in this war with Ukraine, saying the U.S. is concerned that China is considering providing lethal support to Russia. Would that cross a line for you?
Look, it's not in China's. I had a very frank conversation with President Xi this past summer on this issue. The conversation went like this. I said, Mr. President, this is not a threat. It's just an assertion, a statement of what I think the reality is. You saw what happened when the rest of the world, Europe in particular, saw the brutality of what Putin was doing in Ukraine. And I said, without any government prodding, 600 American corporations left Russia, from McDonald's to Exxon to across the board. And I said, and if you are engaged in the same kind of brutality by supporting the brutality that's going on, I said, you may face the same consequence.
But if they did, would that be crossing a line for you, Mr. President?
It would be the same line everyone else would have crossed. In other words, we impose severe sanctions on anyone who has done that.
So there would be serious consequences?
I'll let you characterize what they would be. We would respond.
We visited the village of Kurilivka, one of many civilian areas repeatedly under Russian attack. Rita's home taking a direct strike. It's horrible, she says, but we'll hold on and hope God gives us victory.
Our thanks to Ian for that. An important warning for everyone who uses an iPhone. Criminals are exploiting what is supposed to be an iPhone security feature to gain access to victims' entire digital lives. ABC's Trevor Ault has the details.
A terrifying threat for iPhone users.
It was really a theft of my entire digital life.
The Wall Street Journal reporting criminals are exploiting an iPhone security feature to get away with stealing the phone and then take even more from their victims.
The passcode that you type in to unlock your phone, that is what actually these thieves are after.
After stealing your phone within minutes, thieves can use that passcode to change your password to your Apple ID. That allows them to turn off the Find My iPhone feature, making it nearly impossible to track, and with potentially easy access to apps that have critical personal or financial information, losing your phone may be just the beginning.
There was a common theme when I spoke to all of these victims, that their phone theft led to a much bigger theft, both an identity theft, financial, and digital life theft.
Rehan Ayaz is one of those victims. Last year, she was leaving a New York City bar when she says a man she'd just met stole her iPhone. She says in just 3 minutes, she was locked out of her Apple account. And the next day, thousands of dollars disappeared from her bank account.
Losing things you care about, like pictures of your family, and going through that all on my own without being able to reach anyone I care about, was probably one of the worst 48 hours of my life.
In a statement, Apple tells us in part the thefts described are uncommon and require multiple physical steps. Stealing a user's device is not enough. The use of Face ID and Touch ID helps reduce the likelihood of these thefts, and we will continue to advance the protections to help keep user accounts secure. Security experts say users need to be mindful of just how much information they are keeping on the same device.
It's almost like thinking about robbing somebody and stealing their purse or their wallet on the phone. It's much more pervasive because there's so many more things dependent on this phone than there was previously.
Really disconcerting there. Our thanks to Trevor. Still much more ahead to get to tonight. Coming up, author and dietitian Jessica Wilson tells us about the challenges within our healthcare system that she says still make it difficult for Black women to get adequate care. But next, the gruesome murder of an influencer in Hong Kong. The family members accused of killing her, what they reportedly did with her body.
Whenever news breaks,
The crush of families here in Poland.
Here in Kentucky, no match for the tornado.
From Monterey Park, California, on the ground in Ukraine.
Reporting from Uvalde, Texas.
ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine.
reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
From Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
From Kathmandu, Nepal.
Truckee, California, covering record snowfall.
Traveling with the president in Mexico City.
Wherever the story,
Here at this airport in Tampa, it's already shut down.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
Reporting from Jerusalem.
Here at 10 Downing Street in London.
streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live, streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news.
Bring them on.
If only there was a place in the morning to start my day. With a smile, somewhere to help me get in the know. A place as spectacular as, well, me.
I think we might know a place, right, guys?
Bring your friends.
Oh, wait, there is.
Good morning, America.
GMA, 7A, every day. Boom, boom, boom.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Robin. Good morning, America. How are you?
Boom. Now that's how you start your day, people.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
Yes. So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
Welcome back. We're tracking several headlines around the world, and we begin with one that we must warn viewers is quite graphic. An absolutely gruesome crime has Hong Kong on edge. 4 family members, including the ex-husband of murdered Hong Kong socialite influencer Abby Choi, appeared in court today after police said that they discovered remains that are believed to belong to the 28-year-old. The remains were found in a large soup pot. Her body parts appeared to have been cooked alongside with green radishes and carrots. Police said the skull retrieved had a small hole in it, indicating that it could be evidence of a fatal attack. Authorities also said that Choi had financial disagreements with her ex-husband's family, adding that those relatives had slowed the investigation by giving misleading information. She leaves behind 4 children, including 2 with the suspect. Forest fires have consumed some 4,200 acres in Cuba, according to authorities, as firefighters, planes, and Defense Force helicopters work to extinguish a large-scale forest fire, which has been raging now for 10 days. The blaze has consumed large areas and caused extensive damage to forest plantations and coffee crops nearly 500 miles east of Havana. A human trafficking tragedy has occurred off the coast of southern Italy after at least 62 people, including 10 children, died in a boat crash just feet from the shoreline. People reportedly from Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Syria were crammed aboard the 66-foot-long wooden boat that originated from Turkey and crashed into a rocky shore. At least 3 suspects have been arrested. Black women face a range of challenges when it comes to health care and wellness, from inadequate access to quality care to the pervasive impact of systemic racism on health outcomes. In It's Always Been Ours, rewriting the story of Black women's bodies, dietitian and author Jessica Wilson takes a comprehensive look at how Black women's bodies have been marginalized, exploited, and stigmatized throughout history, and offers a roadmap for Black women to reclaim agency over their bodies and health. Author Jessica Wilson joins us now. Thanks so much for joining us, Jessica.
So welcome. Happy to be here.
So you write about Black women that our safety is contingent on how little of a threat we pose to those around us. If we can make ourselves smaller, both literally and figuratively, we may be able to uncouple ourselves from the savagery associated with our Blackness. How does the idea of making ourselves smaller impact the health and wellness of Black women?
So, as you already mentioned, Black women are already seen as too much in society. And so there's a variety of ways that we can make ourselves smaller before we're told to do so. One way is probably more obvious in restrictions, so making our bodies smaller. By engaging in respectability, we can conform to what society demands of us, so changing, code switching in mixed environments, and then just by pushing ourselves harder than everybody else to, prove that we deserve to be at the table.
In the book, you introduce us to Lexi, a young Black woman who was bullied by her gymnastics team and coaches, which led her to develop an eating disorder. What motivated you to include Lexi's story, and how do her experiences shed light on the larger issue of eating disorders in the Black community?
Sure. So her eating disorder developed much younger than college. She's been told, from a very young age that her body was, muscular, it was powerful, in juxtaposition to, thinner white women's bodies. And because gymnasts are literally judged, she found that making her body smaller by conforming her body to like a typical gymnast body, she was literally judged better. It was important to include the complexities that Black women face when it comes to eating disorders, because so often it's not about the thin ideal or what people think about when it comes to body image. It's about that safety and survival.
You describe attending a Goop conference, which is marketed as a space for women to explore alternative health and wellness practices. How did that experience inform your thinking about mainstream wellness culture?
There's two parts of it. One, I called it a wellness Disneyland. Like, it was just this like easeful, moment in time where we could just walk into another world. And the whole time I was wondering what was going on behind this. And it really hit me that for Black women, when we're discarded by the medical establishment, when we're not believed, that wellness and the wellness industry offers us some promise that we can't gain just engaging in the healthcare system.
In the book, you discuss the ways in which Black women have always been active agents in shaping their own health outcomes. Talk about some of the ways in which you see Black women's activism and agency playing a role in contemporary discussions about healthcare reform and access.
I really appreciate the attention that's been given to maternal and infant mortality lately. As we're talking about that, as we're talking about more health disparities, Black women are organizing. There's more Black women becoming doulas to assist Black women giving birth these days. So really taking things into our own hands and building really this community enhanced support system for us, by us.
The final chapter of your book is devoted to Black joy. You write, Black joy is an act of rebellion when everything else in this world aims to deny us of this. Our joy has always been ours. Thinking back on your career, what advice do you have for Black women who wish to live a lifestyle that centers and celebrates joy instead of health or wellness?
Yeah, or the labor, right? The productivity that we're always expected to give. So one is finding community. I always look for people to recognize that their bodies are not inherently a problem, that whatever, society is telling us about our bodies, it's not ours to own. So if we're able to gain some agency and understanding there, what ways can we find joy in community? What ways during our day are we able to lay down what society is telling us we are to be and pick up a hula hoop or something else that is fun?
I need to go find a hula hoop right now. Look for a little of that levity in life. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. It's always been ours. Reclaiming the Story of Black Women's Bodies is available wherever books are sold. And still to come, actress Garcelle Beauvais tells us how a new Lifetime movie she's executive producing takes a closer look at a real-life issue impacting Black women in the U.S.
Disturbing is the word to describe this story. Master manipulator Larry Ray terrorizing his daughter's classmates. More than a decade of abuse.
Psychological torture, sleep deprivation, sexual humiliation. That's only the half of it.
I want to get out! Watching the documentary for the first time was so emotional.
I have no memory of that happening.
If he wanted to get to you, please, he would.
Under His Spell, Impact by Nightline, now streaming on Hulu. With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television. After an extraordinary news-making year, thank you for making ABC's This Week America's #1 news and politics show on Sunday mornings. He may not look like central casting for a movie star hero, but what he did and how he risked it all to save hundreds of lives from terror are what heroes are made of.
Really? That guy?
What's the life and death truth behind what he did? Truth and Lies, The Informant. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Reporting from East Lansing, Michigan, I'm Alex Perez. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
In the United States, hundreds of thousands of women go missing, especially women of color. According to the National Crime Information Center, more than 268,000 women were reported missing. Nearly 100,000 are black women and girls. Black women account for 1/3 of those who were reported missing in 2020. The new Lifetime movie, Black Girl Missing, focuses on actual stories of missing women of color and is a part of the network's Stop Violence Against Women's campaign. Let's take a look.
My daughter is missing. I can't even get in touch with the detective assigned to her case.
Inspired by actual stories.
I think there's a story here.
News isn't news anymore, it's ratings. And the public goes nuts for a pretty little blonde girl.
And no one cares about a missing black girl.
Joining us now is the star and executive producer of the film, Miss Garcelle Beauvais, the one, the only. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you for having me, Lindsay. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, it's such an important topic, too. Let's get into your character. Mother of two, recently widowed. Let's talk about your relationship with Lauren, your daughter who ultimately goes missing. At the time, Mom is really just trying to make sure the two girls are okay after the passing of their father.
Absolutely. She's making sure that they're okay. They just moved to a small town. She's trying to sort of level up and be the, the parent to both of them, obviously. And, her daughter is struggling and she didn't see it. She didn't see it. So many times we don't talk about, mental health, or she said she was depressed. And I was like, my character says, when I was younger, I was too busy taking care of myself to be depressed. Like, sort of like generational things that we pass on without really listening. And she feels like she needs another outlet. So she started talking to someone on the internet and went off to meet with him and never came back.
And we find out that simultaneously, a young girl named Jessica has disappeared in Oregon. Now, you and your daughter, your younger daughter, Marley, are really, like, trying to do everything you can to bring back your daughter. And you see there's a totally different treatment from the police and the media. Explain that difference that you see.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is, it's a disparity that we face all the time where we're not seen, we're not heard. If we go missing, we're considered a runaway. Or give it a couple of days, they'll come back. And as we know, the first 24, 48 hours are the most crucial, and no one was paying attention. And I really wanted us to show the difference between Jessica Russo disappearing and immediately it's round-the-clock news. She becomes a big ratings get for the station. So, of course, therefore, they're going to continue with that. And Lauren was just, pushed aside. And Cheryl really had to take the matters into her own hands, and her daughter, and found net sleuths, people who are on the internet who are willing to sort of jump in and be detectives. And to me, it's just a frustration of that we're never seen and heard like we need to be. I'm not saying the other stories aren't important, but it's just everybody should be important. So that's why I'm so proud of this movie, and I want us to hopefully start a conversation or an awareness.
Really, we see the onus in this particular situation, and in real life, the parallel, where the difficulty is not getting the same kind of coverage, right? And so it really falls squarely on the parents, as you said, to try to figure out all these different mechanisms to try to help find your missing child. When I'm thinking about it, and being a part of the media and being in this industry for more than 2 decades now, I could not name you a single black female who's gone missing in the last decades. I could probably name 5 to 6 white women who've gone missing. And I know that you worked with the nonprofit Black and Missing Foundation.
Yes.
Did they help you to understand why?
I don't know if there's a why, but it's just, it doesn't happen. I think we focus on, the pretty picture or the most popular picture. I don't know why. I just feel like it's just systemic.
The pretty in air quotes.
Right, exactly. But the Black and Missing Foundation, when we partnered with them for the movie, I mean, it opened my eyes to so many things that I didn't know of. I mean, in terms of, like, when we think missing, we think young girls, young boys, but older women, older men. I mean, it goes across the board, and no one does anything about it. I mean, these parents are frustrated and need help and need an outlet, which is the Black and Missing Foundation is really a great outlet.
What does it mean to you to be able to have really this megaphone, this platform in this way to perhaps make a difference?
It means everything to me. I mean, I say my platform is for 3 things: to show people I still look cute at my age, to shade a housewife here and there, and also to bring attention to things that are really important, not only for me, but for my community. I mean, that's why. Otherwise, what's the point?
And we do see that sexiest grandmother alive, as I've given you that distinction before.
Thank you.
Thank you, Garcelle.
You're so
really
welcome.
great to have you back on. Want to let our viewers know that her film Black Girl Missing premieres Saturday, March 4th on Lifetime at 7 p.m. Central Time. And that is our show for tonight. I'm Lindsay Davis. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis. You can always find us on Hulu, the ABC News app, and, of course, on abcnews.com.